Well, then I love that even more. It's neat when we have diversity in the audience, so we can talk about how musical concepts apply to all instruments. But anyways, I brought some backing tracks from a few of my. I have 4 records out to date, and I'm going to play some tracks off of 3 of them. And as Brittany mentioned, I've got 2 of them here. No pressure, but sales are of course appreciated. But I'm gonna do some bass karaoke with the computer, play maybe some solo pieces if y'all would like to hear that kind of stuff, and hopefully talk about some concepts that'll have you thinking about making a song differently. So anyways, I'm gonna open up with my hands have gotten cold already, just so I try to keep playing before I start. But I'm gonna open up with a piece off my balance record. This is called Schizo, and this is a fun little tune that goes through sort of a journey of some different musical styles. So here we go. If the balance is whack, feel free to fix whatever we gotta do. Thank you, Schizo.
The funk.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh man.
That's awesome, man. That is
Okay.
awesome.
Thank you, man. Areas occurs. One is that you tend to play harder, when you're tensing up, and that of course changes the tone. If I play a line that if I play that in sort of like a regular, sound volume level, it sounds a certain way. But if I was to play that really hard, there's some compromise that's going to occur, and in this case, like to me, you're taking on the character of being more aggressive or buzzy, if you're digging in, and obviously the faster you go, the more messy that has the potential of being, because when you hear people playing fast, when they're playing super hard, and it becomes a bit of a mess. And what I always tried to do was, first of all, instead of people get sort of misdirected with what it means to be able to play with a lot of headroom or dexterity on the instrument. And people think that, a lot of players think that in order to be able to play fast, you have to practice fast. But it's actually not true. It's more about playing slow and developing better synchronization between the plucking hand and the fretting hand. That's where your speed is going to come from. Because when you develop the muscle memory at a slower pace, even if you raise the tempo, the muscle memory, if you train that effectively, it remains. So that synchronization stays there for a larger variety of tempos. So what I try to get people to do is, first of all, before you do any practicing, you have to be mindful of the tension level. And tension for most players begins in the shoulders. Most of us carry tension in the shoulders, and if we're gonna tense up, usually what happens is our shoulders raise. And when your shoulders raise, the bummer about that is that tension has a way of working all the way down from the shoulder, down past the elbow, all the way to the tips of your fingers. So if you are now tense up here, it's going to make everything else tenser. At the very least, it's going to make your endurance really bad, because you're not going to be able to sustain a high level of play because of all the tension that's introduced. And it's like, imagine your muscles just getting tighter and tighter and tighter, ligaments, getting tighter and tighter to the point to where you can't really play anymore. So before you do anything else, you have to monitor that. So before I ever sit down to practice, or before I ever sit down to perform, I'll, hang my bass, which another important thing is to try to practice always with your bass in the same position as when you perform. Like right now, the position that I'm in, the bass is just hanging by the strap, but if I stand up, the bass position doesn't change at all, right? So what I try to do is whatever position I'm in, this chair makes it kind of easy. I just drop my right leg, and by dropping the right leg, that lets the bass hang on its own. So that allows me the relaxation of not having to hold up the bass or do anything like that. If you practice all the time with the bass on your leg, or back to the side if you're reclining or something like that, if you're working on muscle memory oriented things or technical things in that position, then when you go to put the bass in the regular position, it's going to feel weird because now you're poised, differently, and you're not used to you're not used to the new position that you've adopted in a performance or practice setting. So once you have the bass in position, then now evaluate your shoulder tension. So you want to make sure that you just sort of put your shoulders back, take a deep breath, and then just completely relax your shoulders. And they should basically relax to the point of letting your arms just drape completely to the side. And then from that point, with your shoulders relaxed, you bring your hands to the instrument, still with your shoulders relaxed, making sure. And for a lot of players, even that act of bringing their hands to the instrument will automatically introduce tension in the shoulders. So you have to go out of your way to find this stuff, because a lot of us have been doing it for so long we don't even realize it's there. Bring your hands to the instrument, and then from that point, now you want to adopt an approach where you don't play any notes, you don't begin an exercise, you don't begin a performance until you know that you're completely relaxed first, and then you go to work. Now the thing with speed, as I mentioned before, it's more an issue of synchronization than anything else. So I'm going to share with you all an exercise, I call it a doubling exercise, and this is where you're probably going to see some incredible marked improvement in your speed and dexterity on the instrument. What do most people do when they're trying to get faster? They're maybe playing to a metronome or a drum machine. They play at a certain tempo, and then they get that tempo down. Then what do? You raise the tempo a little bit. Then you go for it again. And it's exactly how I used to practice the same way. Let me load a little metronome program while I'm talking. Is any of this making sense to y'all so far? Sometimes the goal requires a completely different path than what you might imagine. This is an example of those things. Sometimes you have to fool your mind into going a different way before you can finally cross the next hurdle. Okay, so, and I'm choosing arbitrary tempos here just to kind of demonstrate my point. But typically what we would do, is we would go through, say you're working on 3 note per string symmetric scale forms or something, like the modes of the major scale. What we do, I'm at 80 beats per minute right now. So say I was doing like, eighth notes at 80 beats per minute. I'd go all the way up the neck and without stopping, go all the way up, come back down, and then if I did it perfectly, then I raise the tempo. Now I'm going to go, let's say I go to 90 beats per minute. So now I up the ante, And I'm not saying this isn't effective, but you're going to reach a point where this gives you diminishing returns. And then I raise it up again, 100, and so on and so on. You get the idea. With the doubling exercise, the idea, how I was just saying, talk about fooling your mind. This is what that's doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to play at a super comfort zone tempo, a particular exercise or a focus form or a pattern, and then we're going to momentarily shock our system by going double tempo just for a short amount of time, and then coming back to the original tempo. And it's a very simple concept, but it's very effective. So say I was going to use, I like to use smaller scale fragments, which I call focus forms. If any of you have ever read any of my published articles, I've published a lot of stuff about focus forms. A focus form is nothing more than taking a magnifying glass to a larger shape so that you can focus on the technical details and clear that stuff out of the way. So let's say I'm working from an E major scale. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose. I'm going to choose the 6 notes that are covered by the D string and the G string. That's just what I'm going to do. I'm arbitrarily picking this. So my 6 notes are this. I've got I'll just talk in terms of degrees, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 octave. And the pattern I'm going to use is going to be like this, where I'm going to go up and down and then back up in order to create a cycle with the focus form so it becomes something somewhat musical and something more of a challenge than just playing the scale. Here's an example of how that might work. Now that's my form, so I keep repeating that. It's a 2-measure phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this 3 times in a row, and then on the 4th time, I'm going to double the tempo of what I play. So this is what that's going to sound like. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to double the tempo. And I'm back to original tempo. This is the first time. 2. 3. 4. So if you're doing this effectively, what happens is you're in the comfort zone. You've got 3 in a row that reinforce something that's very comfortable and very much already under your fingers. When you get to the 4th iteration, you're sprinting. It's like you're jogging, and then you sprint for a short time, and then you're jogging again. So you're spending the majority of your time jogging, and then you do these interspersed sprints. The sprints should take you to a place where you are almost barely losing control of the tempo if you're doing it correct. And I don't know if any of you were watching my right hand, but I was using very deliberate 1-2 alternation the whole time. So if you watch my right hand finger, I was going 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. So now when you raise the metronome mark, you're getting exponentially faster with the challenge for your right hand, right? So here I am at 80, so I'm going to go up to 90. 1, 2, 3, 4.